What's up, everybody? This is Whiskey in the Six. I'm Rob. Today, we're going head to head. Hakushu 12-year-old versus the Yamazaki 12-year-old. Both of these are single malts, and both of these are owned by Suntory. Okay, separate distilleries. This one is the Hakushu is in northern Japan. All right, the Yamazaki distillery is actually the oldest Japanese single malt distillery. Okay, so same company, major differences in the way these are put together. So the Hakushu is American oak whiskey that doesn't have peat. It's a combination of three types of whiskey. So American oak non-peated, ex-European oak, Spanish oak specifically, it's an ex-sherry, non-peated, and then a peated whiskey that is about 7 to 9 parts per million, and that's also American oak. So two types of American oak, one European oak, but only one of those barrels, or one of the three, is actually peated. All right. This is different because it's mostly ex-bourbon American oak, but it has some Spanish Oloroso cask influence as well as Mizunara. All right. I believe I pronounced that correctly. It's a Japanese oak. All right. So that's special to the Yamazaki entire line. The 18-year-old has that as well. There's a new release of Yamazaki 18-year-old that's exclusively Mizunara. Highly sought after, crazy secondary market prices. You're looking at well over $1,000 for a bottle now, and that's American. So out of my price range, I'm still looking to acquire a Yamazaki 18-year-old, but those are also really expensive, coming in at around $350 to $400 US. All right, I'm gonna start with the Yama because I noticed when I was tasting it. First of all, I got the Yama, this Compass Box Hedonism, as well as this Macallan Classic Cut in a trade. I traded for a Weller 12, two Elijah Craig 12-year-olds, and a Weller 107. So I didn't review any of these three, and I had reviewed already the Elijah Craig 12 and the Weller 12, so I figured it would be a smart trade for me. And I really wanted to try all three of these types of whiskeys because they've eluded me for a very long time. So like I said, I'm going to start with the Yama 12, drink some water in between, then go to the Hakushu 12. Just noses first. You can tell there's sherry influence in this one. I love the maltiness in the Yama. Beautiful cereal notes. You can tell it's going to be sweet. Really nice. Some oak influence on there as well. I'm not sure what Mizunara usually smells like, but it's, I don't know, I can't really tell, to be honest with you. Let's see if there's a difference on the taste, because this one definitely doesn't have the Mizunara, but there is, now that I put my nose to it, that's 7 to 9 parts per million. Even though that's only a part of the whiskey, you're getting that peat even more so now because the Yama doesn't have any. This also smells very sweet though. Get a little bit less sherry influence on this one. That's probably because of that heathery style peat that I'm smelling. Very nice campfire type smoke, but not a strong campfire type smoke. It's like you were almost smelling it from a distance. It's like a cherry note in the background of this one. Okay, on the palate for the Yama. Super smooth. That cereal note comes through as well. They're both bottled at 43%. I don't think there's added color to either of these. They look pretty pale, especially having a little bit of sherry oak influence. I love that malted note that comes through on that Yama. Really nice finish. It lingers for a while. I'm gonna take one more sip of the Yama. The nose is beautiful on this one. Really, really yummy stuff. Honestly, I gotta thank his name is Duncan43 on Snups. Check out his collection because it's absolutely stunning. I guess for him, these are like Mickey Mouse bottles because you gotta see what he's got lined up, and the size of his collection is incredible. He's a super nice guy on top of that. He's also from Ontario. We were able to exchange these. Really, really great guy. So thanks again, Duncan. That's his Snups name. Obviously, I'm not gonna share his personal information, but really, really cool guy. Yama is awesome. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the Hakushu. Alright, like I said, this is more peated, and you get that sense way more after tasting and smelling the Yamazaki. Okay, so here's what's gonna happen. The peat lovers are gonna go towards this Hakushu, and it's great stuff. It's really nicely peated. Kind of reminds me of a Highland Park a little bit softer, a little less sherry notes than a Highland Park, but really, really nice. You got that heathery peat. It's a beautiful peat. Sweet. You do get a maltiness as well. Not as much sweetness, but it might be a little bit more buttery than the Yama in my opinion. And it might actually, I think it's something to do with that peat. I've noticed this in a few different peated drams where you don't get as much of a burn on peated whiskey. I'm not sure why. And burn, what I mean by burn is alcohol burn, all right? They're both 43%. Both using quality casks, in my opinion. Suntory's made a name for itself for a good reason. But, I don't know, I feel like the Hakushu might be a touch smoother. Man, that's tough because the Hakushu is super buttery. Now, I'm further down the bottle, so that might play a factor, but this is a relatively new open. I just tend to share my whiskey a little too much. I've given out already 4 samples of this, and everybody I've let try it thinks it's stunning. This one is pretty new. This is my second dram out of it, so maybe it's not the most fair comparison head to head, but I did drink this thinking originally that I was going to give it a better mark. I better sip some water and try them both one more time because this is a tough one. Now, like I said, it's only 7 to 9 parts per million of peat or phenols, but you should always go with, whenever you're drinking a couple drams that night, go with the non-peated whiskey first, even if it's a higher end whiskey, just because when you tend to go to a heavier peated whiskey, it will change the taste of everything else after it, and that kind of sticks around with you. When they're low like that, I don't think it plays as much of a factor, but that's one more sip of water just in case. All right, results are coming in 2 minutes. Nose is better on this for sure, in my opinion. Just beautiful. That cereal note is definitely stronger on the Yama. It's beautiful stuff. I'm very torn. I originally thought I was gonna give the upper hand to the Yama, but it is beautiful. Smooth. It's a little more buttery now, having sat in the glass for a little while. But all right. So, like I said, more buttery. That's the note I'm picking up now. Last sip of the Hakushu, and then I'm going to give these a mark. Okay, so there's a lot of similarities. I would say the thing that stands out the most is the fact that this is peated and this isn't. But I'm going to give these a tie at 89. So they're both an A for me. They're very close to an A+. I think if they were 46% or higher, that would have given it the finishing touch that it needed to be an A+. But because it's 43 and it could have used that extra little push, I'm going to have to stick with my 89, because when I compare a 43% Scotch to some of the, or sorry, single malt, not Scotch because these are Japanese, but when I compare a 43% single malt to some of the 46%, you just get that little edge with that extra 3%. And I know it doesn't sound like much, but for that reason, these are, honestly, I might even give them an 89.5. They're so close to an A+, and a lot of people would probably give an extra 2 marks and maybe take less than a half a mark. Okay, so I'm willing to say that this could easily be an A+, but for argument's sake, they're a tie for me at 89.5 because they're both really, really good. Okay, so I know the Yama goes for about 130 American, and the Hakushu goes for about 80 American, but both of these are hard to come by. The Yama more so. So they're both worth it. They're both worth the price in my opinion. But obviously, if you lean towards peat, or if you're okay with peat, save yourself the $50 because the Hakushu is just as good in my opinion. All right. Both awesome whiskeys. You won't be disappointed with either of them. Okay. Thanks again to Duncan. Guys, check us out on Snups. We're really starting to develop a little bit of a whiskey community on that thing. There's a lot of fun things that are happening on there. Okay, you guys can join us in the Whiskey in the Six group, and then we can all add each other as friends, have conversations. It's pretty cool. All right, you guys can also check me out on Patreon. All right, if you guys want to help keep the lights on. I know that things have been pretty good lately. I've been trading some of my personal collection to improve the quality of what I'm putting on this table so that I can review it for you guys. It's better on this table than in my closet, in my opinion, so I prefer to share it with you guys than to stash it away and who knows when I'll get to it. So yeah, check me out on Patreon, check me out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All right, I post a lot of my pictures of the stuff that I get on Instagram. Facebook, I'm involved with a few groups. You guys can have a chat. There's also a Whiskey in the Six group on Facebook, which I would invite you all to join as well. That's about it. All right, guys. Cheers.